I watched their dog eat fried chicken while I licked the smell off the empty plate it left behind. I was squatting beside the garbage bin when it happened. The dog, Bobo, had just finished eating. My cousin placed the plate on the ground, walked off like nothing, and left me there. Alone. Hungry. Shaking. I waited a moment, then crawled closer. I picked up the oily plastic plate and held it to my face. The smell of warm chicken, crispy skin, and peppered bones filled my nose like magic. My stomach groaned so loud it echoed in my ears. And then I did it. I licked the plate. Yes, I licked the dog's plate. I was that hungry. Inside the house, they were laughing. Bobo had just gotten a new toy from an online pet store. It squeaked when you pressed it. Doreen, my cousin, was recording a TikTok of him. My uncle was scrolling through stock updates. My aunt was yelling at a delivery guy to bring the right brand of mineral water. Nobody noticed I hadn't eaten all day. Let me introduce myself. My name is Aduri. I'm 8 years old. I live in Nairobi, not in a slum, not on the streets, but in a mansion with white tiles, crystal glasses, and 4 bedrooms. Only I don't belong there. After my parents died in an accident 2 years ago, I was brought here. They said I was family. They said, you'll be safe with us. But here's what safe looks like. I wash the toilets they dirty. I iron the uniforms I never wear. I sweep rooms I can't sleep in. I cook food I'm not allowed to eat. I go to Ngando Public Primary, where the desks have splinters and the chalk is always finished. But my cousins? They go to Bright Heights International School, where they eat packed lasagna for lunch and have iPads for homework. We all live under the same roof. But we do not live the same life. That morning, I had walked to school with dust on my shoes and holes in my socks. It rained halfway, and by the time I got to class, my books were wet. My teacher asked why I looked like I had slept in a ditch. I wanted to tell her the truth. Because I sleep in the storeroom beside leaking paint and old tires. But I just smiled. I forgot my umbrella. Back at home, I washed clothes until my fingers wrinkled. The soap had burned a cut on my hand. I ignored it. Pain is normal here. Adu Yuri. My aunt screamed from the balcony. The guests are coming. Mop the floor again, and if I see 1 drop of water left, you'll sleep outside tonight. Yes, Auntie. She didn't even look at me. She just blew on her nails and went back to her wine. Later that night, I heard my uncle come in. Traffic is hell, he grumbled. They hugged him like he was the president. Daddy's home. He looked at me, standing at the corner of the kitchen, holding a mop. You again. I looked down. He turned to Doreen. Warm my food and bring something for Bobo. I wanted to say, can I have some too? But I knew better. That's when I saw it, the moment that broke me. Aunt brought out a box of KFC fried chicken. Not for me. For the dog. She opened it, took out the thighs, breasts, and wings, and emptied them into Bobo's bowl. The smell made my knees weak. He ate like royalty. I stood outside the kitchen door, shaking. Nobody noticed me. Nobody ever did. When everyone left the kitchen, I crawled over. I picked up Bobo's plate, and I licked it. I licked the oil, the crumbs, the bone fragments stuck to the plastic. I didn't care. It was either that or sleep with an empty stomach again. Later that night, I dragged myself into the storeroom. My thin mattress smelled like dust and sadness. I wrapped my arms around myself and tried to be small. The storeroom had no fan, no mosquito net, just shadows and silence. I closed my eyes, and that's when I had the dream. The dream. There was smoke, a fire, a building collapsing, people screaming, my uncle shouting my name, only my name. Aduri. Aduri. Where's Aduri? But no one knew. I was gone, hidden, forgotten. Then I saw myself, standing in a room filled with gold light, holding a red book. My name was glowing on it. I opened it. Page by page I saw warnings, dates, visions, truths. The last page said, the one they left behind is the only one who can save them. I woke up sweating, my chest rising and falling like waves. It wasn't just a dream. I know what I saw. They don't know it yet, but I am the only hope they have. And they fed the dog, but forgot me. He laughed at me in the morning. By evening, he was on the news, trapped inside his burning office. You're cursed, Uncle barked that morning sipping tea. You bring bad luck. Ever since you came here, nothing's gone right. His words sliced deeper than knives. My only crime? I had accidentally broken his favorite wine glass while washing dishes. My hands were wet, my fingers shaking. I dropped it by mistake. The glass shattered. He shattered me. Bobo is more useful than you, Aunt added, without even looking up from her phone. At least he entertains us. You just walk around this house like a ghost. Doreen and her brother Prince giggled on the dining table. They were eating pancakes and sausages, food I had prepared since 5 a.m., but I was not allowed to sit with them. I stood by the sink like furniture, hungry, humiliated, hated. The dream haunted me. Smoke, screaming, my uncle crying out my name. I wanted to warn him. Something told me not to. That afternoon, I sat in the back corner of our dusty public classroom. My stomach was growling. I hadn't eaten. Again. But that wasn't new. What was new was the breaking news that burst into the school compound like a storm. My class teacher gasped as her phone lit up. Upper Hill? Oh my God. The building's on fire. All the teachers rushed to their phones. One of them whispered, "Isn't that the building where Mwakazi Holdings has its headquarters?" Mwakazi, my uncle's company. My heart dropped to my knees. No, it couldn't be. Couldn't. I ran. I didn't wait for the bell. I ran through the dusty field down the busy road, dodging Matatus and Boda. My feet hurt. My chest burned. But I didn't stop. By the time I got home, the gate was wide open. Aunt was on the floor, crying, screaming. Doreen was hugging Prince, both pale and confused. They say the fire started in the boardroom, a neighbor shouted. Gas leak maybe, for people trapped inside. Uncle was one of them. Everything froze around me. This was my dream. Every single detail happening in real life. I wanted to scream. I wanted to shout. I saw this coming. I saw it last night. But no one would believe me. No one ever did. A black Prado came screeching into the compound. A man stepped out, rushed into the house, and whispered something to my aunt. She collapsed. No, 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 she screamed, tearing her hair. Bobo barked from the veranda. I stood by the corner of the wall, invisible like always, watching the family break apart. I wanted to feel sad, but I couldn't. Something was building in me. Later that evening, the news confirmed it. Massive fire at Skyline Towers in Nairobi. 4 trapped, including company CEO Mr. Felix Mwakazi. 1 body recovered, 3 still missing. Rescue operations ongoing. My uncle was still in there. That night, the house was quiet. No one ate. No one laughed. Even Bobo was quiet. I returned to the storeroom like always. But sleep didn't come. I sat on the floor, holding my knees to my chest, staring at the crack in the wall. They fed the dog. They mocked me. They said I was a curse. But now I was the only one who knew what was happening. I was the only one who saw it before it came. I was the only one who could help them. The next morning, I saw my diary glowing again. I flipped to the last page. A new line had appeared. They will come to you. Don't speak. Don't save until the one who hated you kneels. I blinked. What did that mean? Before I could think too deeply, the door flew open. It was Aunt. Her eyes swollen. Her hands shaking. Aduri. She had never said my name gently before. She stepped closer. I need your help. The dream had warned me. Now they were beginning to see it. The fire was real. And so was my gift. She used to slap me for coughing. Now she stood before me, trembling, begging for help. For the first time since I stepped into that house, she said my name. Not girl. Not you. Not lazy rat. She said Aduri. Soft. Weak. Tired. I almost didn't respond. My ears had never heard my name spoken without venom. She stepped into the storeroom slowly, like it was a haunted place. Like it had swallowed her guilt. Please come. I want to talk. I looked up from the floor. I was hugging my knees. My legs were dusty. My hair uncombed. My face pale. I hadn't eaten in 2 days. But for some reason, I didn't feel small anymore. Aunt Mwaka sat on an old bucket. The storeroom was quiet. The walls listened. Her voice trembled. They've searched everywhere. They say he's still trapped in the building. But I know deep in my heart, I know he's not dead. He can't be. She looked at me, eyes full of something I'd never seen in her before. Not anger. Not mockery. Not superiority. Fear. Real fear. Aduri, something strange is happening. I can't explain it. But since last night, I've been hearing a voice in my dreams. She wiped her face. It kept saying, go to the girl. Go to the one you forgot. The one you left behind. She paused. You. I blinked. Tears burned the corners of my eyes, but I didn't let them fall. So now, I was important. Now that her world was crashing. Now that the man who called me a curse was missing. Aunt dropped to her knees suddenly. The cold floor echoed her weakness. Please, Aduri. If you know anything, if God speaks to you, if you've seen something, help me. My lips remained closed. My heart was thunder. Then I remembered my diary. I stood up slowly and reached for it under the torn mattress. Aunt watched me with wide eyes. I opened the page where the ink had written itself again. Don't speak. Don't save. Not until the one who hated you kneels. It wasn't Aunt. It was him. Uncle. The one who cursed me. The one who once poured hot tea near my feet and said, next time, I'll pour it on your head if you break anything again. He had to kneel. I closed the diary and sat back down. I looked straight at her. You're not the one who needs to kneel. Silence. Aunt stared at me like I had spoken in thunder. She frowned, confused. What do you mean? I'm already kneeling. I shook my head slowly. The dream didn't ask for you. It asked for him. The one who said I'm cursed. The one who never called me by name. Her face darkened. She stood up fast. Aduri, this is no time to play riddles. I'm your aunt. And I'm the child you made sleep beside buckets. We stared at each other. That was the first time in years I answered her directly. She didn't shout. She didn't slap. She backed away. Like she saw something in me that she wasn't ready to face. That night, the atmosphere in the house was strange. Nobody spoke. The TV was off. Doreen sat in the living room, her eyes puffy, scrolling through photos of their dad on her phone. Prince, the younger cousin, didn't even eat his chicken nuggets. He just sat there silent. Even Bobo was quiet. He lay down beside the couch, not barking or begging. It was like the whole house was frozen in shame. I went back to my storeroom, but I couldn't sleep. Something was coming. Something big. At 2:37 a.m., I heard the gate rattle. Loud knocks at the door. Screaming. Running footsteps. I rushed out. 2 men stood there, wet from the rain. One of them held a phone, shaking. We found him. Aunt ran out with Doreen and Prince. Where? Is he alive? Yes. Alive. He was stuck in the emergency stairwell. Burn wounds. Smoke in the lungs. But he's alive. She collapsed to the ground, crying. But I didn't move. As I knew. Now comes the test. The next morning, he was brought home in a wheelchair. His hands bandaged. His face pale. I watched from the shadows. He couldn't look me in the eye. But that night, he came. The man who once laughed when I cried walked into my storeroom. He sat on the floor. Slowly. And then, he kneeled. Aduri. His voice cracked. I know what I did. I was wrong. I called you names. I treated you like you didn't matter. I thought you were just a burden. A charity case. He swallowed hard. But I saw you. I saw you in that stairwell. Holding a book. Glowing. You were the one who led them to me. You're not cursed. You're chosen. He broke down. And knelt deeper. Please forgive me. Help us. I'll never hurt you again. I stared at the man before me. For the first time, he was smaller than me. My diary glowed softly on my lap. I opened the next page. New words had appeared. Now you may speak. All my life I stayed quiet. But the moment I opened my mouth, everything began to change. I sat there staring at Uncle. He was still on his knees. A rich man. A man whose voice once made my heart tremble. The same man who had called me cursed. A mistake. An unwanted shadow in his perfect home. Now, he knelt on the cold floor of my storeroom, begging. Tears on his cheeks. Aduri, please, he whispered again. Say something. behind him, Aunt stood silently in the hallway. Her mascara had dried on her cheeks. Doreen and Prince peeked from behind the door, confused and scared. No one understood what was happening. But I did. The power had shifted. Not out of revenge, but from truth. I reached for my diary. It felt warmer than usual, alive in my hands. I flipped to the new page that had written itself earlier that day. Now you may speak, but choose your words with wisdom. They are not just listening with their ears. They are listening with their fate. I took a deep breath. And I spoke. I warned you, I said quietly. Uncle blinked, eyes wide. I saw it in my dream before the fire. I saw the building. The smoke. You calling my name. He gasped. How did you? Because I've always seen. Ever since Mama died, I've dreamed of things before they happen. But no one ever listened. Not even you. He covered his mouth. Tears spilled down again. I told no one. Because you would have beaten me. Called me mad. Or worse. Aunt leaned on the doorframe, looking like her world was spinning. This house, I continued, was my prison. But the dreams, the visions, they were my window. They showed me what was hidden. What was coming. What still is coming. Everyone held their breath. Even Bobo stood still. Then I said something that made Aunt sink to the floor. The fire was not the end. It was just the beginning. What's coming next is inside this house. She looked up sharply. What do you mean? There is something buried here. Something dark. And it's been growing. Uncle sat up straighter. Buried. No one will be safe until the truth is brought into the light. Silence. You could hear the fridge humming from the kitchen. Then the diary glowed again. I turned the page. New words wrote themselves right before everyone's eyes. Aunt screamed and jumped back. Doreen gasped. Prince dropped his water bottle. The words read, "In the third room under the floor lies what was hidden in secret. Until it's removed, peace will not return." Uncle shook his head in disbelief. The third room. He looked at Aunt. Her face turned gray. Which third room? I asked. They stared at each other. Frozen. Exposed. Then Aunt broke down. She cried into her palms like a child. It was my father's. He used to keep things under the carpet in the guest room. I forgot about it. I swear, Aduri, I didn't know. The diary wrote again. You knew. You covered it. Now uncover it. I stood up. They followed me slowly, silently, like prisoners walking to court. We entered the third bedroom. I had never been allowed in here. It always stayed locked. Now it was shaking with secrets. We moved the carpet. Underneath was an old wooden floorboard, partly lifted. The edges were burnt, like they'd seen fire years ago. Uncle hesitated. His hands trembled as he pulled it open. And there it was. A small black box, wrapped in red cloth, with ashes inside. What is this? I whispered. Aunt fell to her knees. It's from my father. He was a medicine man. He said the ashes were for protection. But before he died, he warned me never to open it. I didn't know it would follow us. The room darkened. The air grew heavier. Then the diary glowed bright again. Blinding golden light. Words began to pour out, pages flipping fast. The wind blew through the room, even though all the windows were shut. Suddenly, peace. Stillness. Then one last line appeared on the page. The curse is broken, but the journey has just begun. I turned to them. They weren't the same anymore. Aunt's eyes were soft. Uncle was shaking but peaceful. Doreen and Prince sat silently on the bed, staring at me with new eyes, not fear, not pity, respect. For the first time ever, Aunt held my hand. I'm sorry, she whispered. For everything. For not seeing you. For not listening. For not loving you like I should have. She cried into my shoulder. I let her. Uncle joined her. Then Doreen. Then Prince. A strange warmth spread through my chest. It wasn't forgiveness. It wasn't healing. Not yet. But it was a beginning. And to think. All of this happened. Because I opened my mouth. She came to school in torn socks. Now, the governor's wife wants to meet her. I stood outside the gate of Ngando Public Primary School, staring at the broken signboard that leaned like an old man. Dust swirled around my feet. Children shouted, ran, played, but my mind was somewhere else. I held my diary close to my chest. My uniform still had patches. My shoes still had holes. But something in me had changed. I was not the same Aduri anymore. Not after everything. It had been 1 week since the secret under the floor was found and removed. The house had shifted. It was still the same structure, but now it breathed differently. Aunt had cleaned the storeroom herself and moved me into one of the empty guest rooms. She brought me a new bed, fresh bed sheets, a mosquito net. She cooked for me. Yes, she cooked for me. Uncle came into the room every evening just to ask, "Are you okay?" He even offered to take me to therapy, saying, "You deserve someone to talk to, not just a dream." Doreen? She gave me one of her blazers. "It's tight on me," she said shyly, "but it might fit you." Prince stopped teasing me and started calling me Big Sis. Even Bobo sat near me during breakfast. But nothing shocked me more than what happened on Monday. It began like any other school morning, me walking alone, clutching my bag, dodging puddles and boda-bodas. But as I got closer to school, something strange happened. Teachers were outside, waiting, staring at me. Mrs. Kamal, my class teacher, walked toward me in her flat shoes, her mouth open. "Aduri?" I stopped. "Yes, madam." She looked behind me, confused. "Where's the security?" "Security?" Before I could ask, a black car pulled up behind me. Tinted windows. Expensive. Shiny tires. The window rolled down. A woman in a long blue dress and high heels leaned out. Her voice was soft but powerful. "You must be the child with the dreams." I froze. My teacher nearly fainted. Who are you?" she stammered. The woman smiled. "I'm the governor's wife. I've been looking for this child since I heard her story." She stepped out of the car and knelt down right there, on the dust on the school ground. She touched my shoulder. "You saved your family. That fire. The day of the rescue, your name was whispered by a man who was half dead." He said. My niece knew. She saw it. My lips parted, but no words came. I was used to being invisible. Now the whole school was watching me. The governor's wife took my hand. "You don't belong in this school anymore. We're moving you to St. Margaret's Academy. Full scholarship. Uniforms. Books. Mentorship." The head teacher gasped. The crowd clapped. I stood there like a candle in the wind. "You're a light," she continued. "And you don't hide light under a bed." Later that day, I returned home in the same black car. Aunt opened the gate and dropped her phone in shock. "Aduri?" The governor's wife stepped out. They spoke quietly on the side. Then Aunt ran to me. She hugged me. Tight. Fierce. Tears in her eyes. "You're not just my niece," she whispered. "You're a miracle." That night I sat on my new bed. The moonlight kissed my cheeks. I opened my diary. It was glowing again. I flipped the page. And there it was, just one final sentence. "They mistreated me." Not knowing I was their only hope. I smiled. Because now they knew. This story teaches that. Never look down on the quiet, the small, or the forgotten. Because the person you mistreat today might be the only one who can save you tomorrow. We often judge people by their condition, not their calling. But sometimes the rejected child is the chosen vessel. The one sleeping in the storeroom might hold the key to your survival. Treat people with kindness, not based on status, but with love, because every soul carries unseen value.